a sense, he's absolutely right. I mean, this is our job. It's in the script. We know we've got to do it.
Demi Moore has spent decades looking fearless on screen, but her private life tells a rougher story. Behind the fame were broken marriages, painful family wounds, addiction, betrayal, and years when love seemed to cost her more than it gave. From her rise as one of Hollywood's stars to the men who shaped her life, Demi has lived through highs that looked perfect and lows she could barely hide. One relationship would eventually reopen wounds she had carried since childhood, but it was only part of a deeper story filled with heartbreak, survival, betrayal, and choices that changed her forever. Now, with years of distance, Demi can look back at the love, loss, fame, and private battles differently. Join us as we uncover the relationships and pain that changed her. Demi's childhood was anything but safe. Demi Moore was born Demetria Jean Harmon on November 11, 1962, in Roswell, New Mexico. Before she was even born, her biological father, Charles Foster Harmon Sr., had left her mother, Virginia, after a marriage that lasted only 2 months. When Demi was 3 months old, Virginia married Dan Gines, the man Demi grew up calling her father. Dan sold newspaper advertising, and his work kept the family moving from place to place. Stability was rare. Demi later said Dan was her dad because he was the man who raised her, even though she eventually learned there was another biological father she barely knew. That discovery came when she was 13. She found a marriage certificate, noticed the date did not match the year of her birth, and started asking questions. By then, home life had already been difficult. Her mother struggled with alcohol and had a long arrest record, while Dan and Virginia married and divorced each other twice. Demi later remembered having to pull pills from her mother's mouth during a suicide attempt when she was only 12. She also dealt with health problems as a child, including kidney trouble and strabismus, which required 2 operations. A photographer who knew the family once remembered her as looking neglected and painfully thin. Years later, Demi explained that she had spent much of her childhood bending herself around other people's needs and expectations. She had little sense of safety or worth. By her early teens, she was already learning how quickly the ground beneath her could shift. Another move was coming, and with it, one of the darkest experiences of her young life. She had no idea how much worse things could get. She was forced into adulthood too soon. By 14, Demi had returned to Roswell for a short stay with her grandmother, then moved again to Washington State with her recently separated mother. A few months later, they landed in West Hollywood. It was there, at 15, that Demi later said a much older man who knew her mother sexually assaulted her inside the family's apartment. The man later claimed he had paid her mother $500 for access to her. Demi said she never knew exactly what arrangement had been made, but she believed her mother had placed her in danger. The family moved soon afterward, and the man even appeared to help with the move. Demi attended Fairfax High School, but ordinary teenage life did not last long. In November 1978, she moved in with 28-year-old guitarist Tom Dunstan. She left school during her junior year and found work as a receptionist at 20th Century Fox through Dunstan's mother. Soon, another door opened. Demi signed with Elite Modeling Agency and became interested in acting after watching her young neighbor, German actress Nastasia Kinski, build a career. She took acting classes and began getting small television parts. Then, in August 1979, when Demi was still 16, she met musician Freddie Moore at the Troubadour nightclub in Los Angeles. Freddie was older, married, and leading the band Boy. He later divorced, and 6 weeks after that divorce was final, he married Demi. She was only 18. Even before the wedding, Demi had begun using his last name professionally, and Moore would remain the name the world knew long after the marriage ended. They also worked together creatively. Demi co-wrote songs with Freddie and appeared in a music video for his band, the New Cats. She later joked that the songwriting was small, but she still received royalty checks from it. Around the same period, she posed for photographs that later became another uncomfortable part of her early public image. Demi said she had been underage when the pictures were taken and had claimed to be older. By 1981, she was also starting to find real acting work, first in the film Choices, and then in the low-budget science fiction horror movie Parasite. A bigger break came when she joined General Hospital as investigative reporter Jackie Templeton. The young woman who had left school and home early was suddenly on television, married, working, and trying to build a new identity. But moving quickly into adulthood did not mean the chaos behind her had disappeared. In fact, some of it began showing up in new ways inside the marriage she had entered at 18. Fame came fast, but so did the chaos. Demi's first marriage did not last. She and Freddie separated in 1983, and their divorce was finalized in August 1985. Years later, Demi admitted in her memoir that she had been unfaithful to him on the night before their wedding. After the separation, she briefly dated Timothy Hutton and later John Cryer while filming No Small Affair in 1984. Cryer later said he had not realized how much Demi was struggling with drugs and alcohol at the time. Her career, however, was moving quickly. Blame It on Rio and No Small Affair brought more attention, but St. Elmo's Fire in 1985 became the real breakthrough. Director Joel Schumacher wanted Demi in the film, but her substance use had become serious enough that he insisted she enter rehab before shooting. A sober companion stayed with her during production. The film became a box office success and helped make Demi one of the faces linked to the Brat Pack. After rehab, she remained sober for nearly 20 years. In 1986, About Last Night brought stronger reviews and better scripts, and Demi later called it a turning point in her career. But her love life was still moving just as fast. She became engaged to Emilio Estevez after about 6 months of dating. Demi later said part of what drew her in was his family. Martin Sheen and the people around Emilio seemed steady and involved, which felt very different from the unstable home she had known growing up. The couple planned to marry in December 1986, and invitations had already gone out. Then, trust broke down. Demi later wrote that Emilio had slept with an ex during an earlier breakup and lied until a pregnancy forced the truth out. She also said a friend later saw him with someone else. The wedding was postponed, then canceled. Once again, the promise of family had fallen apart. But Demi would not have much time to sit with that heartbreak before someone new entered her life. Bruce Willis became Demi's next big risk. After the engagement to Emilio ended, Demi's next relationship moved even faster. In 1987, she attended the premiere of Stakeout, a film starring Emilio, and met Bruce Willis there. Demi later called it a highly important night in her life. Within weeks, she and Bruce were dating while he was filming Die Hard. 4 months after meeting, they traveled to Las Vegas, and Bruce suddenly suggested they get married. Demi remembered that they had joked about marriage on the flight, but when Bruce brought it up again near the gambling tables, he sounded serious. They married on November 21, 1987, then held another ceremony for family and friends the next month, officiated by Little Richard. Their first daughter, Rumor, arrived in August 1988, and motherhood quickly became one of the strongest parts of Demi's life. In 1990, Ghost became her biggest hit. Earning more than $505 million worldwide, and turning its pottery scene with Patrick Swayze into one of cinema's most remembered romantic moments. Demi earned a Golden Globe nomination, and her short haircut became a trend. At one point, Ghost and Bruce's Die Hard 2 held the top 2 spots at the box office. Scout arrived in July 1991. While 7 months pregnant with her, Demi posed nude for Vanity Fair, creating a cover that caused debate and was copied and parodied for years. She posed nude for the magazine again in 1992, this time covered in body paint. That same period brought A Few Good Men, followed by Indecent Proposal in 1993. Tallulah was born in February 1994, and Disclosure followed later that year. Those 3 films became major hits and made studios see Demi as one of Hollywood's most valuable stars. Producer Martin Schaefer called her the biggest female star in the entire world. On the outside, Demi and Bruce looked like a Hollywood power couple raising 3 daughters, while both careers were booming. Yet the same fame that made Demi powerful also put her marriage under constant attention. And as Hollywood pushed her higher, the backlash against her was getting louder. Hollywood built Demi up, then tore her apart. By the mid-1990s, Demi had become one of Hollywood's biggest stars, but that success came with a price. After hits like A Few Good Men, Indecent Proposal, and Disclosure, she was offered $12.5 million for striptease, making her the highest-paid actress in the world at the time. Demi later defended asking for equal pay, telling Diane Sawyer, "Why shouldn't all women be paid equal to the quality of the work that they're doing?" But the bigger she became, the harsher the attention got. The press began calling her Demi Moore, while stories about private planes, large entourages, and expensive demands helped create a diva image around her. Striptease made money, but was attacked by critics, and the juror also failed to impress. In 1997, Demi shaved her head and went through tough military training for G.I. Jane, a film she later called one of her proudest achievements. Still, it added to the feeling that her career was cooling. Looking back, Demi said striptease made it seem as if she had betrayed women, while G.I. Jane made it seem as if she had betrayed men. At home, the pressure was just as real. Demi later wrote that Bruce had told her he was not sure he wanted to stay married. She also believed he worried that her career would pull her away from him and their daughters. Bruce later said there was no single reason for the split, only that people change and grow at different rates, especially under constant public attention. In June 1998, they announced their separation, and their divorce became final in October 2000. Still, the breakup did not become the bitter Hollywood war many expected. Bruce said he still loved Demi, and both remained focused on raising their daughters together. Demi later said she was proud of how they handled the divorce. But with her marriage ending, and another painful loss arriving almost beside it, Demi began pulling away from Hollywood too. After Bruce, Demi nearly disappeared from Hollywood. Demi's separation from Bruce came during another painful stretch. Her mother, Virginia, died from a brain tumor in July 1998, after mother and daughter had reconciled shortly before the end. Demi had cut off contact years earlier when Virginia left a rehabilitation program Demi had paid for, so the reunion came after a long and difficult history. Around the same time, Demi pulled back from Hollywood. She moved to Haley, Idaho, and focused on raising Rumor, Scout, and Tallulah. After G.I. Jane, she stayed off screen for 3 years. Passion of Mind brought her back in 2000, but Demi later said the death of her mother and the divorce from Bruce affected what she could give the film. She kept turning down offers and remained mostly away from acting. During this period, she dated martial arts instructor Oliver Whitcomb for several years. A friend said in 2000 that Demi looked happier and better than ever. Still, Hollywood had not forgotten her. In 2003, Charlie's Angels Full Throttle brought her back in a visible role as a villain. One swimsuit scene created intense attention around her body and age. Instead of enjoying the response, Demi said it made her question where she belonged in the industry. She was 40, returning to a business that had once treated her as one of its biggest stars, and suddenly, much of the conversation was about how she looked. Then, that year, her personal life changed again. Before a dinner with friends, Demi met 25-year-old Ashton Kutcher in a hotel room. She later wrote that it felt as if nobody else was there. They stayed up all night talking and telling each other their life stories. The 15-year age gap became a public obsession, but Demi said she did not experience the relationship through that lens. After years of responsibility, divorce, motherhood, and career pressure, Ashton seemed to open a door back to something lighter. Demi later called the relationship a do-over, a chance to feel young in a way she believed she never had when she was in her 20s. And that feeling would soon become more powerful than she expected. With Ashton, Demi thought she could start over. Demi later explained why Ashton affected her strongly. She had spent years feeling responsible for everything, but with him she felt safe enough to loosen her grip. He accepted her 3 daughters, seemed comfortable around Bruce, and did not appear frightened by the life she had. Demi joked that she did not come with baggage, she came with trunks. Ashton later said he loved children, and would never have married a woman with 3 daughters if he did not. At 26, he suddenly became a stepfather figure to girls who were 8, 10, and 12, a responsibility he later compared to the experience of very young parents. Demi also believed the age difference gave her something she had missed. In her memoir, she wrote that she felt almost like a teenager hoping someone liked her. The relationship moved toward marriage, and Ashton proposed during a sunset walk on the beach with a vintage Cartier ring. They married at their Beverly Hills home on September 24, 2005, in front of close friends and family. Bruce was among the guests. The unusual blended family seemed to work well. Demi publicly praised Ashton's relationship with her daughters and said his closeness with his own mother helped him step into family life naturally. But a private loss changed the emotional weight of the marriage. Demi became pregnant with a girl she planned to name Chaplin Ray. At almost 6 months, a checkup revealed there was no heartbeat. Demi later struggled to describe the emptiness and confusion she felt. She blamed herself and said the loss decimated her. The couple tried in vitro fertilization more than once, hoping for another pregnancy, but it did not happen. Ashton later described losing the baby as really, really painful, and said everyone handles that kind of grief differently. Demi, however, later admitted that her desire for another child became consuming. She said she lost sight of the family already in front of her and began holding tighter to the relationship. What had started as freedom and a second chance was becoming tied to fear, grief, and an old need to feel chosen. Keeping Ashton came with a price. The loss of the pregnancy did not stay separate from Demi's older struggles. After almost 2 decades of sobriety, she began drinking again. In her memoir, she described a moment on a trip to Mexico when Ashton questioned whether alcoholism was real and suggested moderation instead. Demi did not later say he caused her relapse. In fact, she wrote, "He's not the cause of why I opened that door up." What troubled her was why she wanted to open it. She wanted to seem easy, young, and fun. She wanted to be the woman who could drink casually and stop. Instead of trusting what she already knew about herself, she tried to become what she imagined Ashton wanted. Demi later described that choice as giving away her power. Once she started, Drinking became tied to the grief she was carrying. At one birthday celebration, she drank so much that she began passing out in a hot tub and said she could have drowned if other people had not been there. She also remembered becoming sick in a bathroom while Ashton took a photograph of her with her head near the toilet. At the time, she treated it like a joke. Later, she saw it as shaming. Demi also began using Vicodin after dental surgery and said she eventually took as many as 12 pills a day. She wrote that a week-long detox was one of the hardest things she had done, and that she felt little support from Ashton during it. Their sexual boundaries also became complicated. Demi said Ashton wanted threesomes, and she agreed twice because she wanted to prove how open and fun she could be. Looking back, she called that a mistake. At the time, she was focused on saving the marriage and proving she could meet Ashton where he was. The more she pushed aside her limits, the harder it became to separate what she wanted from what she feared losing in that relationship. The relationship that once made her feel young was now touching every old fear she had spent years trying to outrun. And worse was still coming. Then came the betrayal she could not ignore. By 2010, rumors around Demi and Ashton's marriage were getting louder. In her memoir, Demi said she learned through a tabloid report that Ashton had been with another woman in their marital home while Demi was away working. According to Demi, Ashton admitted it when she confronted him. She wrote that he argued their earlier decision to bring a third person into the marriage had blurred the boundaries. Demi felt he was shifting responsibility back toward her. Then another allegation arrived in 2011, around the couple's 6th wedding anniversary. Demi said a notification on her phone told her Ashton had been caught cheating again. She called him and asked directly if it was true. According to Demi, he admitted it immediately. Her response was simple and furious. "Are you kidding me?" She said she could barely breathe. What made the moment even stranger was that she had to step onto a red carpet almost immediately afterward for a project she had directed. Demi later described having an emotional Iron Man suit that allowed her to disconnect and keep functioning when something inside her was falling apart. In November 2011, after months of speculation, she announced that she was ending the marriage. Her statement said that, as a woman, mother, and wife, she held certain values and vows sacred. Ashton responded that marriage was difficult and that he would cherish the time they had shared. But for Demi, the breakup reached far beyond the end of one marriage. She later told Diane Sawyer that it brought her back to the frightened child who had never felt safe. It touched the belief that she was not lovable or deserving. She was careful to say that part was not about Ashton. It belonged to her own history. Still, the impact was severe. One source later told people that the split damaged her confidence and that it took her years to recover. Demi herself eventually described her emotional dependence on Ashton as an addiction, saying the codependency pulled her away from herself. The marriage had ended, but Demi's lowest period was not over yet. Not even close. Losing the marriage was only the beginning. After the separation, Demi's struggles became harder to hide. She had already returned to alcohol and was dealing with substance use, grief, shame, and a marriage that had collapsed in public. In January 2012, another moment pushed things further. Demi suffered a seizure at a party while with her daughter Rumor after using synthetic cannabis and nitrous oxide. She later admitted that her life was unraveling. She had no relationship, and she felt she had no career. The incident also damaged her connection with her daughters. Rumor, Scout, and Tallulah became estranged from her, adding another loss at the exact moment Demi was already struggling to hold herself together. Soon after, she entered treatment for substance abuse, trauma, and codependency, and worked toward sobriety again. Meanwhile, the legal end of her marriage continued. Ashton filed for divorce in December 2012, citing irreconcilable differences. Demi responded in March 2013 and requested spousal support and legal fees. Their divorce was finalized in November 2013. Around that time, Demi was reportedly linked to restaurateur Harry Morton, and in 2014, she was linked to Dead Sarah drummer Sean Friday. Those relationships stayed more private than the marriage that had dominated headlines. More important was the slow work of repairing her own life and rebuilding trust with her daughters. Demi later said her daughters gave her the chance to change patterns that had passed through generations. She wanted to break cycles rather than repeat them. The process took time, one careful step at a time. People close to her said she spent years rebuilding her confidence, health, and kindness toward herself. Therapy became part of that work. As Demi rebuilt contact with her daughters, she also started looking more closely at the patterns behind the collapse. Treatment forced her to face more than the end of a marriage. She began looking at the deeper patterns that had followed her through different stages of her life. For a long time, most of that remained private. Then, Demi decided to put the story into her own words, including parts of her marriages that the public had never heard from her directly. Years later, Demi finally told her side. In September 2019, Demi published Inside Out, a memoir that brought together parts of her life she had kept separate. She wrote about childhood instability, her mother's addiction, the assault she experienced at 15, her own substance use, 3 marriages, motherhood, miscarriage, and the painful choices she made while trying to feel wanted. The book reached #1 on the New York Times nonfiction bestseller lists. During interviews, Demi returned to one idea. She realized how often she had put another person's needs ahead of her own. She said people are often trained to focus on being desired while forgetting they have desires of their own. To her, a relationship could not be healthy without self-love and self-acceptance. She made clear the memoir told events from her point of view. Ashton did not publicly answer her specific claims at the time. Demi kept living beyond those headlines. In 2022, she publicly dated Swiss restaurateur Daniel Humm after the two were seen together during Paris Fashion Week. She shared pictures from Europe, but the relationship ended that November. A source said Demi was happy and enjoying her children and friends. In 2023, Ashton told Esquire that divorce had made him feel like a failure and said a person has to own what they did wrong and move forward. By September 2024, she told The Guardian that dating was not her focus. She explained that this did not mean she had no interest in love. The difference was that she no longer felt a relationship was needed to fill something missing. She described being in a place of choice instead of lack. At the same time, her career was moving into an unexpected new chapter. She appeared in Feud, Capote versus the Swans and Landman, then took the lead in The Substance. The role asked her to play an aging star, desperate to become younger, a subject that closely echoed the pressure Demi had faced for decades. Critics responded with some of the strongest praise of Demi's career, and this time, the attention was about to bring something Hollywood had never given her before. Demi's biggest surprise came years later. The success of The Substance brought Demi into a new kind of spotlight. In 2024, she also spoke about staying close to Bruce Willis as his health declined after his aphasia diagnosis progressed to frontotemporal dementia. When she was in Los Angeles, Demi said she saw him every week and treasured the time their family shared. Their daughters remained the bond that had lasted beyond the marriage. Then came one of the strongest professional periods of Demi's later career. For The Substance, she won the Golden Globe, Critics' Choice Award, and Actor Award, while also earning BAFTA and Academy Award nominations. It was a major comeback after years of being judged differently by Hollywood. In April 2025, people named her the world's most beautiful, and Time placed her among its 100 most influential people of the year. Her family was still part of the story. In 2025, Tallulah wrote that no one needs to be the bad guy for a situation to heal, while Scout said their family tries to handle difficult relationships with grace, love, and mutual respect. Ashton also spoke warmly about Demi's comeback in January 2026, saying he was proud of her performance in The Substance and that she had killed it. Later that year, Demi celebrated Tallulah's wedding and continued moving professionally with I Love Boosters and the upcoming thriller Tyrant. Even years later, the Ashton chapter still carried questions Demi could not neatly explain. Too many things broke at once, and the deeper you look, the messier that marriage becomes. Do you think Ashton was truly the relationship that broke Demi the most? Or did it simply reopen wounds that were already there? And looking back at everything Demi revealed, what do you think was the real turning point that made their marriage impossible to save? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time.